Thank you for coming here tonight. It's a great crowd here, and we have a great panel of speakers. I want to thank tonight's meeting sponsors, Research in Motion, maker of the BlackBerry Internet. They do our web streaming, so we're streaming this live over the internet right now as we speak. Motorola and iMovie Cloud, which is Atlanta's own startup company. And I want to thank our association sponsors. We couldn't do it without their support. AT&T has been our longest running association sponsor. Aruba Networks, which signed up this year. Thank you, Jay and Aruba. See Beyond, our local company here in Atlanta. DeVry University and American Intercontinental University. So thank you, guys. And for those of you who might have missed the Whammy Awards, the Weather Channel was our grand prize winner, and so they will be entered into the Global Mobile Awards that GSMA is having in Barcelona. So if they need someone to carry their suitcase, if anybody's from the Weather Channel, if Cameron Clayton's out there, please invite me along. I want to introduce Steve Leonard. Steve didn't want me to do a big bio for him, so I'll just tell you that he's been in the industry for over 18 years, and he's been with Verizon Wireless for over 6 years, and he is here in Atlanta, and he is Director of Data Products for Verizon. So welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening. I'm honored to be here tonight to take you through the next several slides. So when you think of how fast the rate of change has been, and when you think of where we're going, that's what we're about with our fourth generation LTE network. So real quickly, just want to highlight a couple of benefits, and then I'll get more into some of the detail. But obviously, fourth generation, nothing different than third and second, right? It's all about speed. So roughly, you're looking at 10 times what current 3G capable devices will do. Obviously, customers are going to want more and more information wherever they're at. From a reliability standpoint, they're going to want access to that, and that requires greater bandwidth. When we launch fourth generation, our LTE network, everything will be backwards compatible. So our existing 3G network is not going away. There's over 61 million PDAs that are currently in the US just as of June. So the market for advanced data devices and solutions is really requiring the additional growth and bandwidth. Year over year, data usage has grown by 50% just in wireless networks in the US. And as Gartner's saying, in 2011, you'll see over 180% growth by tablet use. And here's just obviously some averages of what the typical US consumer is using. In 2007, we made the announcement that we were going to go to LTE. And obviously now, as we're getting ready to launch LTE in 38 markets in the US before the end of this year, which is the next 5 weeks, these are the type of capabilities and speeds that you'll see. We didn't do it alone. In conjunction with Vodafone and China Mobile, we announced that we were going to go to LTE, and then, as you can see, a whole slew of additional carriers continue to follow that their evolution path would eventually get to LTE. And obviously, just another slide on global adoption of carriers and countries where they've committed that they're going to LTE as the key component to their latest technology. We do have a contiguous spectrum throughout the entire United States in the 700 megahertz spectrum. Why is this so important? We are saying that on a fully loaded network, our commitment is to deliver 5 to 12 megabits per second on the downlink, 2 to 5 megabits per second on the uplink, dropping latency from 150 milliseconds to as close to 30 milliseconds. Anything less than 50 milliseconds is considered real time. We will have our full overlay LTE fourth generation network built by the end of 2013. So our 4G network will be completely finished and built by the end of 2013 to mimic and be identical to what our 3G network is today from an overall coverage standpoint.
One question for Stephen, and it's a very quick question. I think users are going to see the first way to get LTE will be cards for notebooks, and then phones and devices will follow after that. Is that a general trend?
Yes, I think everyone will see this year, you will see basically USB modems that will provide connectivity in the fourth generation, our LTE network. I think in early 2011, you will start to see additional devices.
And this whole reason this room's standing room only in the back is because each year these people who we bring in know where this industry's headed, and it's really important and really good stuff, like what we just heard about this amazing new multi-billion-dollar investment Verizon's making in LTE.
So good evening. Gerry was kind enough to give us sort of open slate in terms of what we choose to talk about tonight. So I want to talk with you about a couple of topics that I've been spending a lot of time on over the last several months. Interestingly, just this week, a subset of some of the topics that we'll touch on have made the news with some announcements that I'll come back to in just a moment. But I want to talk with you about mobile commerce, and talked about LTE, mobile broadband, smart devices. It's really changing the way in which consumers shop, and all of you in this audience know that, and that's manifested in several different ways. It's really at the top of leading retailers' agenda as well. There was a conference just within the last 6 weeks with the top 20 retailers from mainly the U.S., but a few global retailers as well, called the Next Generation Retail Summit. M-commerce, mobile commerce, was one of the top items on their agenda, with some observations, again, that acknowledge the importance, but also announcements, again, from companies like Target, Walgreens, and others, suggesting how they're really embracing and integrating mobile commerce into their operations. And then finally, you see brands embracing mobile commerce as well. Any of you fly Virgin America yet? If you haven't, I'd recommend it highly. As we think about the dimensions and applications of mobile commerce, I'd like you to think broadly about these 8 dimensions that are shown here. Again, mobile payments have been in the news a lot. We'll touch on that briefly. But stepping back and thinking about mobile shopping, mobile funds transfer, mobile advertising, mobile rewards, mobile coupons, mobile booking, mobile offers, these 8 and others that didn't make this slide really constitute m-commerce. So here's what we're seeing, and again, you could certainly have a crowded slide like this for virtually any subset of opportunities, but I think especially in the arena of mobile commerce, there's so much happening. Those of us who are tracking this space literally need to update these slides each week. But I think beyond the very, very innovative applications, most of which are coming from small companies, what we're beginning to see within the last 3 to 6 months are big companies jumping into this, both with acquisitions, but also very, very significant investments. They'd like for that partner to know not only who they are, but where they are, and related to that, where they're going, perhaps where they've been, but also what's nearby, what's going on around me. So as we think about the confluence of social media and a whole range of other things, including weather, as the Weather Channel will attest to, but importantly, what I respond to, what I've bought, really a holistic view of the consumer that allows the consumer to make good use of that mobile device and the capabilities that this intelligence can bring to that device. So what are some of the things that are accelerating m-commerce, not only at present, but especially over the next 18 to 36 months? First of all, location matters. Hyperlocal, and that word is used in many different ways, but basically it recognizes that some companies understand not only where we are, but what's around us, and that's the way in which I would use that term. And that intelligence regarding what's around us is a key differentiator. So the 3 platforms at the bottom acknowledge a lot more granular data, advertisers and merchants working together, but then on top of that, trust that allows us to make this happen on behalf of the consumer. So my take is that mobile shopping, we're going to see tremendous gains over the next 6 to 12 months, even over the next 6 weeks, quite frankly. Mobile advertising, mobile offers, mobile coupons, we're at the beginning, but again, watch for that to grow exponentially. The other areas that we'll see slower but significant early investments in mobile payment, but that's going to take some time. Despite the entry of both Google as well as ISIS and the mobile operators, to leverage these capabilities and really accelerate but emerge as one of the leading platforms in this m-commerce arena as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil. Very good presentation. Got you to think about mobile commerce. And let's hear some good stuff from George. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Gerry. Yeah, we appreciate having been invited here many years running. And we usually reveal the top 10. We're not quite there yet, so we've got a sneak preview tonight of 3 out of the top 10. Not revealed yet anywhere in America, so it should be exciting. So here we go. The first of the 3 that we'll talk about tonight. And this one is over the top goes over the top. And if you think about over the top video, and this is more of a fixed line type example, we started off with YouTube around 2005. With more of your free content over PC. Then you had branded content with Hulu around 2007. Now it's really spawned into Netflix. For any of you that saw Netflix happening, you could have made about 8x your money over the last 24 months investing in it. Now a $25 billion company basically distributing movies and other content over internet connectivity. Next up is Take One tablet. And of course with the iPad, that has reintroduced the tablet as a relevant form factor. Now everyone's coming in with a tablet, clearly with many launches. Question is, what happens to netbooks? Netbooks were developed with the internet in mind, with mobile in mind, with some of the pricing schemes that many of the carriers came out. We believe that given where netbooks ended up, as sometimes a substitute for a PC, other times it was the PC. We believe tablets will eat into the share of netbooks in a fairly healthy way pretty immediately and catching them by 2012. And finally, the new gold rush, wireless rural broadband. I think we're all familiar with the stimulus package passed in early 2009, $800 billion. Some of that went to wireless broadband. Where's that money gone? It wasn't quite shovel ready, but it's getting there. Much of the money is getting, no political statement, but much of the money has been now getting released. And is helping spur that market. Generally, there's more network sharing happening in this country. Network sharing used to be sort of a taboo topic. That'll help stimulate the demand. And then finally, it's where the money is. There's decreased competition in many of these rural markets. But much like the original gold rush, it's going to produce opportunity, but it's also going to produce some interesting players and models. So we don't think that every model, every player will be successful, much like the gold rush. I'm not going to use the word crazy, but there will be a lot of novices trying to play in this new space. That's it. Hopefully I met my time commitment and looking forward to the rest of the presentations. Thanks.
That's a great marketing technique. Here are my first 3. Look for the remaining 7. Come back soon. So McKinsey doesn't need any introduction for the firm because they're one of the leading consultancy and strategy firms in the world. And they have a very active telecom group, and they help major Fortune 500 class companies make their big bets in wireless. So,
thank you. So I'm Jeremy Schneider from McKinsey. So I'll be brief and just give you also 3 predictions. I guess 3 is the magic number tonight. Before we get into that, though, just a quick bit of context on how we think about the mobile market more broadly. Right? So in our view, looking especially at the service provider side, this is really a market that has matured fundamentally in the U.S. All right, so if you look at the growth rate from 03 to 09 and compare that to what we've seen over the last year, already growth down dramatically in terms of voice and messaging as value erodes from what have traditionally been the core drivers in the industry. And so there's a long list, obviously, of things, but I'll talk about 3 tonight, 3 predictions for the future. First, in our view, the growth of mobile data is still being dramatically undercalled. If you look at what predictions were a year ago, the forecasts of growth from 2009 looking out to 2012, you saw predictions in the 5X to, at the very high end, some of the very optimistic equipment makers at the 12X level. Those numbers have all, in the last year, started to come up a bit, up to 6X for some of the leading analysts, and the ever-optimistic equipment makers even up to 14. In our view, the reality is actually much higher than that. If you believe some of the more optimistic numbers, this number could go as high as 25X by our math. Second big driver is mobile video adoption. Mobile video obviously drives enormous bandwidth demand, and we expect over this time period about 3 to 4X growth in mobile video. And finally, obviously, a broad-based, broader consumer adoption of mobile internet browsing. Secondly, in our view, there's a lot of talk about consumer. And everybody wants to talk about the consumer opportunity. In our view, actually, the bigger opportunity in the wireless market is on the enterprise side. If you look at, just at a very fundamental level, right, at kind of a macroeconomic level, if you look at what has driven the US economy, right, from 1970 to about the year 2000, in fact, what drove GDP growth, for every $5 of GDP growth, only $1 was driven by productivity improvements. 4 came from labor force growth. Right? If we are going to continue at a very fundamental level, if the US economy is going to continue to grow at those kinds of rates going forward, those numbers are going to have to be reversed. So we think this is a huge opportunity. We think it's a huge opportunity for a few reasons. One, much higher willingness to pay in the enterprise world. If you just compare in the old PC world how much software spend there is per user, it's 6X that of the consumer side. Obviously at different rates, at different times, it's not going to be all at once, right? It's going to be critical for the folks who are making bets in this space to figure out that they're not too early, for the bets that they're making. I think this is one of those markets that is absolutely going to happen, but the speed and pacing and timing of going after the right segments at the right time is going to be critical. In our view, just to highlight one of those markets, I think the healthcare opportunity, 49% of Americans have a chronic condition of some kind or another. And a lot of this mobile technology in the healthcare market is going to be targeting chronic conditions. In our view, one of the most ripe areas of opportunity. And finally, just very quickly on the third bet, or the third prediction, we see a number of new directions kind of at the technical level in application architecture coming. What does that mean? It means a bunch of different things. I think one is around network efficiency, the challenges posed by the growth of data. Secondly, we think platform independence is going to be increasingly important. We get a lot of questions around platform evolution. And finally, the cloud. I mean, if there's anything that we are asked about most frequently today, probably by our clients, it is implications of cloud and cloud architectures. So that's just a quick view of a few predictions for the market.
Nielsen acquired a company, Telefia, if I pronounced it correct, a few years ago, and they have become now one of the leading ways in which quantification of what people are doing with phones.
I know Gerry said we weren't going to get into it tonight, but I couldn't resist. I'm going to talk about the iPhone on Verizon. So actually, how much time do I have left? Okay. What I'm going to talk about is a little bit of a look back and what that might tell us about a look forward in 2011. I think the biggest thing that's happened in the industry is that the growth has really slowed. I mean, that's no surprise to anybody. But the growth has actually changed. The value growth on the postpaid side has slowed tremendously. And the growth on the prepaid side, which is the value part of the market, is still going quite strong. But one of the really interesting aspects of that is that it's clear everybody wants data, and now data has moved to prepaid. And if we look at the Q3 carrier results, only 2 carriers are getting net gains in postpaid now, Verizon and AT&T. For all of 2010, the number one reason that people leave their current carrier is pricing or promotion from another carrier. So that's very consistent with the prepaid story. It's also consistent with the growth in family plans. I mean, you see Sprint's Simply Everything commercial. Basically, whatever you can get on the other carriers, you can get that plus more on us for $69 a month. On the premium side, the real growth is going to come in smartphones and the associated data plans, but also in second and even third devices and the associated data plans that go along with those. The interesting thing will be to see if the carriers can find the right price points. One of the, I think a little cautionary note about the iPad is that despite the iPads that have been sold, only 1/10 of the iPads that have been sold in North America have been activated on AT&T's network or are currently activated on AT&T's network as of September. And what we're seeing is, especially in the Nielsen research, people, when the pricing plan isn't right, people are willing to use Wi-Fi. And so that gives an advantage to a competitor like AT&T that has a big Wi-Fi footprint and can offer that as a competitive part of their offer that is a little bit more difficult for the other carriers to respond to. So looking forward to 2011, obviously smartphones have been the huge growth story, but I find it quite interesting that it took us, we launched the first WAP site globally in 1999, and it took us till 2007 to find an internet experience on a handheld device that anybody was actually willing to pay for. When the iPhone was launched in 2007, it was considered revolutionary, but in essence, what it really said was, I can put the internet in the palm of your hand, which was an effort first started by the industry, and tremendous amount of effort was spent since 1999 in trying to make an internet experience that people would pay for. AT&T right now, if you take their iPhone activations for the second quarter and look at their total postpaid net adds, iPhone represents 174% of their postpaid net adds, which means if they lose exclusivity, it's, I think, hiding some significant weakness in the rest of their postpaid business. We think that at the end of Q2, if you were to take just the Q2 numbers for AT&T and looked at their reported postpaid net adds, were exclusivity to end, they could lose as many as 950,000 net adds. In addition, we looked at people who leave AT&T either for reasons of network or price and promotion. And if you look at that, by far the biggest beneficiary will be, and this is, I think every analyst has, of course, taken a crack at this number, how many AT&T iPhone subs would leave for network and go to Verizon. If you look at what happened in Europe when iPhone exclusivity ends, the big takeaway is really this. Apple wins huge. When exclusivity ended in Europe, in various countries, and each of those lines represents a different country, France, which is only really two carriers dominate 80% of the market in France, and you have two other carriers that kind of split the bottom 20%. When exclusivity ended, by order of the regulator, their market share went more than tripled in 2 quarters. And so, similarly in the UK, they more than doubled their market share, literally in just 1 quarter, when exclusivity ended. So the big news is, buy Apple.
A lot of good insights. If you're in this industry, some good times are ahead. I hope each of you participate in a positive way. Maury, back to you.
Thank you, Gerry, and let's give one more round of applause to Gerry and the panelists. Great presentations, and I like the way you put in context that this organization is 7 years old now, and what's happened 7 years ago, we were founded to show people what was coming, and we told a story of why wireless was important, and now it's become the fabric of every business. So a lot has changed in 7 years.